Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Getting Personal with Parkinson's Facebook Live weekly conversation series. I'm Caroline Colas, the Senior Director of Health and Wellness for the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan and the Program Coordinator for the Edmund J. Safra Parkinson's Wellness Program, supported by New York's largest healthcare provider, Northwell Health. I am also your host for today's show. For over 14 years, the JCC has been hosting programs for individuals living with PD. You can find these programs on our website at www.mmjccm.org/Parkinson's. Please see the link in the chat below in the comments section and just click on that and it'll take you right to it. Our conversation today is about putting a face to Parkinson's to introduce you to people living and thriving with PD, as well as experts who will share updates and research and tools for managing and thriving with PD. We welcome your input. If you want to be a guest or know somebody we should talk to, please let us know. All inquiries should go to wchapman@mmjccm.org, and we'll put her information in the comments section as well. And now I'm excited to introduce you to Simka Weintraub, a rabbi and social worker. Simka retired in 2020 as Rabbinic Director of the Jewish Board of Family and Children's Services, where for over 25 years he led the Jewish Healing Center. The Jewish Healing Center helps people living with chronic illness, bereavement, and trauma by integrating spiritual resources, singing, poetry, psalms, stories, rituals, and more, with counseling and support groups. Once called the Prince of Pre-Existing Conditions, Simka has lived with type 1 diabetes for over 40 years. And with Parkinson's for at least 8 years now. Simka and I had a chat that we pre-recorded, which I want to share with you right now. As you watch, if you have any questions, or comments, please feel free to post them in the comments section on Facebook. And I will be back after this conversation to try and address your thoughts. And now, on with the show. Simka, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for inviting me.
Are you logging in from Philadelphia, your new home? Is that right?
Yes.
Oh.
Still unpacking.
I can see the boxes in the background. Good luck with that. I have a house in Pennsylvania, and we're still unpacking. And I've been there for 14 years, but it is a country home, you know. So we were going to talk today about your relationship with Parkinson's disease. What is your relationship with Parkinson's? How is it manifested for you?
I've been very fortunate. It's been gradual, and when I was first diagnosed about 8 years ago, the first neurologist I went to see said every 6 months I went to see him, and he said, "I don't think this is Parkinson's. I don't think this is Parkinson's." And then 18 months into it, he said, "This might be Parkinson's." So he referred me to another neurologist who said, "This is early Parkinson's." But I just added an early. She only said 2 earlys. Anyway, and it's been, a gradual, so I've had a lot of opportunity to kind of explore and adjust to it. That's how I feel. But I came up with 7 words for my relationship with Parkinson's: intimate, evolving, curious, challenging, negotiating, familial, and resentful.
Well, let's take them one by one. Intimate. What do you mean by intimate?
I should mention that it's my second chronic disease. Really, 40 years ago, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So I've been managing that for 40 years. And after that diagnosis, I had a brief, very easy bout with thyroid cancer. But this is the second illness that's been really with me every hour of every day. I guess the other thing is that my father had Parkinson's, and so did his sister, our favorite, Aunt Bryna, and they both lived to 94 with it. So so that helps me too.
Wow, that's amazing. And you said curious, didn't you?
Yeah.
Explain that one.
Well, so the doctors can't tell you what's going to happen when. they can suggest some possibilities, but it's so very individual. I'm curious about this mind-body connection, which I've always believed in, but now it's really things like the neuroplasticity that you've shared with us and so many people have pointed to are fascinating things. And so there's a lot to be curious about.
Yeah, no, there certainly is. And especially, as you said, how it manifests differently for each person. And there seems to be some wiggle room there in determination, meaning, what I'm thinking, what I'm doing, what I'm feeling, what I'm eating. Lifestyle impacts us. It's such a great deal. And then, of course, familial, you said, and you shared with us that your father had it and a favorite aunt. Any other one of those 7 that you want to kind of unpack a little?
Yeah, the resentful. I like to tell myself a lot of the time that I've checked off type 1 diabetes and Parkinson's, and so there can be nothing else. I won't be getting anyone's heart disease. I won't be getting, any other cancer. But sometimes I'll be honest to say it feels like I've been screwed. I've gotten the raw end of the deal. On the other hand, my father and my Aunt Bryna managed it so well. My father was amazingly collaborative and worked with a physical therapist in the senior residence they lived in religiously. So.
Well, that's interesting because I was, as I meet people who are living with Parkinson's, one of the big successes that people discuss is getting into a routine and working with someone or doing something religiously or that is of physical nature, getting into habit, doing the things that they need to do when their medication is at its peak and all of those kind of stuff, really sort of organizing their life so that they can optimize how they function based on their own energy and on their medication cycles. Have you found that to be true?
Yeah, I think that the crisis of losing control has to be confronted by taking control, and if things like the NIA exercise and the LSVT and the dance and all these things re-empower you, and they show you what you can do, so you'll stretch to do more.
So that's such an interesting thing to say, because I know that for me, and I think it's just normal human behavior, it's like you have I don't really feel like it, or I don't really want to. And how does that, and that seems to be exacerbated with Parkinson's, but what propels you on to say, wait a minute, nope, I'm gonna still show up to class. I'm gonna still sign up and do the LSVT. I'm still going to, is it that it makes such a big difference, or what?
It's partly that, and it's partly the curiosity piece. I think curiosity is really important. So it's great when we're reassured in class that it doesn't really matter how we perform or that we get everything right, or that we, I remember when I first started NIA, everything seemed to be moving so fast, and I didn't know whether I was going to be able to, keep up. And then I had a discussion with myself, which was about the other people in the room were, also had challenges, and if they were showing up and if they were moving, then I should be too.
And just so everybody knows, Simka is a student in my NIA class, and we enjoy each other's company a lot, as all the other participants in the class as well. And NIA is about stimulation. It's about changing things up so that we really are focusing on neuroplasticity. So it's supposed to be a little bit different each time you do it. And we all get challenged, including me. And I'll ask you sometimes, hey, was that challenging for you? Because it was for me too, right?
Yeah.
What 3 things would you want someone diagnosed with PD to know about?
The first thing I think is that Parkinson's takes a team. that I'm just so fortunate to have, medical professionals and teachers at the JCC, and family is really important, and friends who are all part of what I call my board of directors. And secondly, that one can use Parkinson's to grow, and to grow not just physically, but spiritually and socially, and I would even say emotionally. It's an opportunity. And thirdly, because it's so very individual and so very, in some ways, complicated and emerging. It's not just a movement disorder. They're very aware now that it's got other dimensions. So I approach it not so much as a death sentence, but as a kind of significant and sneaky obstacle that requires both community, curiosity, and also mindfulness. I don't think I drown in it, but I do think about it a lot.
Let's talk more about that. What do you mean you think about it a lot?
There was a long time when I didn't know when I was on or when I was off. I didn't know how the Cinemet was working or when it was. And I realized that I needed to pay attention to that. And I would have some symptoms. For example, my right foot, I described it as flapping, but when I was walking, it just didn't hit the ground right. And so it became important for me to not to literally chart it, but to notice what part of the day was happening, and even was I under stress at that time. And it was amazing, because I know that stress also exacerbates the diabetes and everything. So
yeah, it's stress is not there is good stress, right? Because there has been studies that talk about stress being good for us, and it activates us. But prolonged high stress does not seem to do much for us. It seems to exacerbate our inflammation and makes things much more difficult. What has Parkinson's taught you?
It's taught me it's taught me, I guess it's taught me that first of all, that the hip bone is connected to the thigh bone, and that the body, the mind, and the spirit interact, and that they dance constantly, and sometimes in surprising ways. The second thing is, I was thinking about how kids perceive that if an insect is moving, it's alive, but if it's not moving, it's dead. We don't lose that approach. And I've started to realize that it's true to an extent that movement is a sign of life, but I have to be honest and say that the divine or eternal or big picture spirit, I don't know what to call it. I don't want to say the G word, God, because that people are creeped out by that. But I think that there's something about spirit that has even more to do with living than movement, or even is behind the movement. And the last thing, which is really going to sound trite, is the third thing I've learned is that life is precious. Life is just absolutely precious.
Yeah. I sometimes think simple things are profound, and that statement certainly is. Sounds simple, but it's a profound one. Life is precious. I actually haven't heard that in a little bit, so thank you for that reminder. And you're talking about spirit or God or whatever anyone wants to call it. They say the spirit moved me to fill in the blank, right? And speaking of spirit, Simka, as a rabbi, how has your spiritual practice or faith influenced how you have managed your diagnosis?
In both practical and spiritual ways. The practical is that there are occasions well, there's a structure to the day, there's a structure to the week, there's a structure to the year. There's all kinds of opportunities for celebration. That's a helpful thing for me. These different flavors of the day and of the week and of the year, and just having a weekly break from having to change things on Shabbat, on the Sabbath. I get to just be and breathe, and I sometimes take a nice walk on Shabbat. That's a tradition. Incidentally, my new since relocating to Philadelphia, the synagogue is not too far, but it's down a big hill. So going to and coming home is up the big hill. So so it's about 14 minutes going there and about 22 minutes coming back. But it's great for me.
I hear you saying that it's the routine, the rituals of your faith, and the routine that you've kind of leaned into. Would that be accurate?
Yeah.
It's provided comfort, and they've provided kind of a way to measure time and also be connected to something larger than yourself. Something
yes.
Universal.
And it's a structure. It's a kind of underpinning for me. The word that's often translated, the Hebrew word that's often translated as faith, it really means trust. And I often say when I'm asked about faith that I don't have faith, but I do have trust. And I feel like things will be okay. And I may not see it that way, but I have that basic trust, which Erik Erikson said was the first psychosocial stage. But I feel blessed with that. So
that is a blessing. That is a sense for me when I hear you say it, and I can sense it in you. It's like, oh, I can rest in that. There's a sense of safety, a sense of security, a sense of grounding, a sense of I know where I am, and I can trust that things are going to work out. And having your father and your beloved aunt too have had Parkinson's and lived with it, that's an interesting thing to also lean into, to trust that, wait a minute, they lived well with this. I can do this too, I would imagine. Yeah.
Yes. Drawing on the stories of those who have gone before us and how they dealt with their suffering is, I went in my office, I had over one shelf of books by people who had lives involving suffering and how they dealt with it. That's a source of inspiration for me and guidance.
Yeah. Well, I would love for you to share a prayer. I understand that you have a prayer for Parkinson's. And would you tell us about how you came up with it? And would you share it with us now? And if you need to take a little sip of tea or something before you do that, go ahead, no worries. But I just find that you're always sharing different things with me via email, funny things, songs, poems, and I so appreciate that. So I'm not a bit surprised that you wrote something, but I can't wait to hear it. And I want to hear kind of the story behind it.
Not to compare myself to Benjamin Franklin, but he once said that he came up with all his inventions because he needed them. And so I've written prayers when I've needed them. I've written a prayer for parenting. I've written, in my first year of diagnosis, I realized I needed to put some things into words. That was the background of this prayer. And I just want to mention that in the prayer, there's two phrases that are in Hebrew, and I translate them, but they're from the morning blessings. In the Jewish morning service, it starts with 15 blessings, thanking God for very ordinary things. The first one thanks God for the rooster who crows in the morning, like your alarm clock. And then it talks about clothing, and it talks about your eyes opening, and all the very practical things. And so it includes, for example, the one who prepares the steps. We thank God for preparing the steps of humankind. Okay, so I'll share it with you now.
Okay.
So it's called Hamechi Mitzadei Gaber, the prayer of one Jew with Parkinson's disease. Hamechi Mitzadei Gaber, to the one who prepares the steps of mortals. I'm a Jew with Parkinson's disease. That says a little about me, maybe even a lot, but not everything. It means that my brain is somewhat disconnected from muscles and limbs, that my balance may be off, my movements altered, limbs rigid and seemingly with their own mind at times. But it also means that I'm linked to others, Jews and non-Jews, who must learn to adjust their lives. At times, perhaps often, I need special arrangements and assistance in a world seemingly not constructed or even friendly to those with differing physical abilities. I think of your wanting us to, quote, walk with you, unquote, dear God, and of Father Abraham and Noah and others who walked with you. And even though this is surely metaphorical and not literal, I worry about my ability to move properly and adequately. And then my thoughts and heart turn to my loved ones, who may well be burdened by my needs and limitations, wanting them to take care of themselves and enjoy life and find support and guidance as needed. Choreographer of the universe, help me to exercise and to challenge the inevitable decline of Parkinson's. Bless me with renewed or rewired neurological connections, with the fortitude and flexibility I need. Help neurologists and physical therapists and all other healthcare professionals to listen, to instruct, to inquire, and to inspire, to care, to be with me fully, to guide and to learn from me, to further your work of both growing and adjusting, adapting and challenging. Zokeif Kefufim, to the one who makes straight those who are bent over. Thank you for that which goes right, for my spirit which can soar, for the small and large examples of help and support, for possibilities uncovered, and for so many hopes still alive. Amen.
Amen. Wow. Thank you. Let's take a moment just to breathe that in. Gorgeous. Thank you. And we will share that with our audience, and so they can see that and put that in the comment section. Oh, Simka, thank you. You are such a kind and gentle soul and such an inspiration to me. And I know that you are living in service too. You really are involved in social justice work, and you do so much for so many. So I thank you for spending time with me and for sharing your heart.
Thank you. It's really my honor to be a part of this and to be a part of the JCC's Parkinson's community. It's an extraordinary thing.
Oh my goodness. Wasn't that prayer beautiful? To see how grateful Simka is towards his father and aunt for being inspirations to him as he faces his own journey with Parkinson's. It's just extraordinary. I'm really moved by his courage and his humility. If you, like me, would like a copy of that prayer, we will put it in the comments. But you can also email us as well at wchapman@mmjccm.org, and we will send you a copy of Simka's prayer. I wanted to let you know that we're making a bit of a change to this program. We're going to be moving it from weekly to twice a month, and we feel the conversation we're having is important and want to continue it. But we also wanted to make room for another really amazing program that we're going to be talking about in a moment, and I think you'll enjoy it. It's called Broadway's Best for Parkinson's. We launched our first episode of Broadway's Best on September 26th with Leslie Stahl from 60 Minutes. You may or may not know, Leslie's husband, Aaron, is living with PD. So Leslie joined us and discussed with Dr. Alessandro DeRocco some of the darker aspects of caregiving, like potential abuse and compulsive behavior. After that interview, singer-songwriter and composer Suzanne Vega, whose mom lives with Parkinson's, performed, And then our very own Chris Jones, who is living with PD and has performed on Broadway, told his story and did a reading. We've put a link in the comments for you to watch this episode for your convenience. We hope you will join us on Monday, November 29th, first at noon for Getting Personal with Parkinson's, and then at 6 p.m. for our next episode of Broadway's Best for PD. We will include conversations about topics that need to be explored, visits from individuals living with PD, and of course, Broadway guests will share music and stories as well. And finally, if you're interested in learning more about our Living with Parkinson's programs at the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan, please see the link in the comments section below or go to our website and fill out an intake form. Remember, you can always email Whitney at wchapman@mmjccm.org if you have ideas for this conversation, questions, or you just want assistance in our Parkinson's program. We'll see you in 2 weeks, Monday, November 29th, for a conversation with David Leventhal, founder and teacher and program director for Dance for PD at noon, and then in the evening for Broadway's Best. Be well, take care, and thank you for joining us on Getting Personal with Parkinson's.